Commander Jack Reynolds stared out the viewscreen at the massive alien fleet that had appeared in Earth's orbit exactly 17 minutes ago. 17 minutes was just enough time for him to gulp down his coffee, find a clean uniform shirt, and rush to the United Earth Defense Headquarters while mentally preparing a strongly worded letter of resignation. As Earth's senior diplomatic officer, first contact was technically his job. The fact that first contact involved 300 heavily armed warships wasn't in his job description. "Remind me again why I took this position," Reynolds muttered to his AI assistant. "You said," and I quote, "how hard could diplomacy be? It's just talking to people without telling them what you really think," the AI replied in its perpetually cheerful voice. The main screen flickered to life, revealing what Reynolds could only describe as a purple octopus in a military uniform. The alien had 7 tentacles, each adorned with what appeared to be military medals, and eyes that seemed to look in several directions simultaneously. "People of Earth," the alien began, its translator rendering its speech into slightly stilted English. "I am Admiral Vex'thor of the Galactic Confederation. Your planet has been scheduled for immediate integration into our glorious empire. Resistance is unnecessary and would result in unfortunate consequences. You have 24 of your Earth hours to surrender unconditionally." Reynolds blinked slowly twice, then reached for his coffee mug only to find it empty. This was already shaping up to be the worst Monday in human history. "I'm Commander Jack Reynolds, Earth diplomatic representative," he replied with remarkable calm for someone who'd just been told his planet was about to be conquered. "Before we discuss your generous offer of integration, perhaps we could arrange a proper diplomatic meeting? With refreshments." Admiral Vex'thor's tentacles wiggled in what might have been confusion. "Surrender is non-negotiable. We have studied your species and determined you possess no technology capable of resisting our might. Your military forces are primitive. Your weapons are ineffective. Your culture is chaotic. Integration will bring order." Reynolds leaned back in his chair and did the most unexpected thing possible in that moment. He laughed. Not a nervous titter, but a full-blown stomach-holding guffaw that echoed through the command center. The other human officers stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. "I'm sorry," Reynolds said, wiping a tear from his eye. "It's just you traveled across the galaxy to conquer us, and you're giving us a full day's notice. That's really considerate of you." Admiral Vex'thor's tentacles stiffened. Clearly, laughter wasn't the response the alien had anticipated. Reynolds could almost see the confusion spreading across the Admiral's face, or whatever passed for a face among 7 tentacled purple aliens. "This is not a humorous situation, human. We have conquered 17 civilizations more advanced than yours." 17? Impressive resume. "But look, Admiral, we humans are big on paperwork. We can't just surrender without properly documenting the process. Treaties, agreements, terms of surrender, there are forms to fill out, procedures to follow. Bureaucracy, you understand?" The alien's eyes blinked in sequence, like lights on a Christmas tree. "Bureaucracy? This is a military conquest, not an administrative procedure." Reynolds smiled broadly. "On Earth, Admiral, everything is an administrative procedure. Would you like to see our surrender paperwork? It's quite extensive. We'll need at least a month just to complete the preliminary forms." As Reynolds continued talking, he gave a subtle nod to General Parker standing off camera. Parker immediately understood and quietly began implementing protocol stall for time. The unofficial but surprisingly effective Earth defense strategy that humanity had half-jokingly prepared for this exact scenario. The aliens had no idea what they'd just started. Humanity hadn't survived thousands of years of its own bureaucracy without learning a thing or two about using red tape as a weapon. 3 weeks later, Admiral Vex'thor's left eye was twitching uncontrollably as Dr. Ellie Maxwell, Earth's lead negotiator, explained yet another subsection of the proposed peace treaty. "So you see, Admiral, before we can proceed to Section 342, Paragraph 7 regarding the appropriate uniforms for Earth's transitional government officials, we must first address the cultural implications outlined in Appendix F-23, which specifically deals with the symbolic meanings of the color purple in Earth's various societies. The conference room, specially constructed for interspecies negotiations, was littered with tablets, papers, and what appeared to be an ancient Earth artifact called a fax machine that inexplicably needed to be present for all official documentation. Dr. Maxwell, Vex'thor said with forced calm, all 7 tentacles gripping his chair with enough force to warp the metal. This is the 18th cultural appendix we have reviewed today. Your species cannot possibly have this many cultural considerations. Ellie adjusted her glasses and smiled pleasantly. Oh, Admiral, you underestimate human diversity. Did you know we have over 7,000 languages on Earth, each with its own cultural nuances that must be respected in any peace treaty? For instance, in one tiny region of what we call Finland, signing a document with blue ink instead of black is considered an invitation to lifelong rivalry. This was, of course, completely fabricated, but Ellie had discovered early in the negotiations that the aliens had no way to verify such claims without extensive research, which would require, you guessed it, even more time. Lieutenant Commander Grek, Vex'thor's aide, leaned toward his superior and whispered, "Sir, I've been researching their internet. I can find no reference to this Finnish ink rivalry." "Of course not," Ellie interjected, having intentionally pitched her voice to be overheard. "That particular cultural taboo is so sensitive we don't document it electronically. Cybersecurity concerns, you understand." Vex'thor's tentacles coiled tightly. "We have been negotiating for 23 Earth days, Dr. Maxwell. Our ships remain in orbit, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Perhaps we should demonstrate our power to expedite these proceedings." Commander Reynolds, who had been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. "That would certainly be your prerogative, Admiral. However, any military action would require us to restart the negotiations under our hostile action protocol, which is, regrettably, a much more complex document than what we're currently working with." "More complex?" one of the alien diplomats squeaked in horror. "Oh yes," Reynolds nodded solemnly. "The standard treaty is only 12,000 pages. The hostile action protocol is closer to 30,000, plus mandatory cooling-off periods between each section review." Vex'thor's translator emitted what could only be described as an alien expletive. Additionally, Ellie added, shuffling more papers, "Tomorrow we need to observe the mandatory Earth negotiation holiday known as Bureaucracy Appreciation Day. It's a 24-hour period of reflection on the importance of proper documentation. No negotiations can occur." "You just invented that holiday," Vex'thor accused. Ellie looked deeply offended. "Admiral, I assure you Bureaucracy Appreciation Day has been observed by government officials worldwide for many years." As the aliens descended into frustrated discussions among themselves, Reynolds slipped Ellie a note. "Engineering says they need 2 more weeks. He keeps stalling." Ellie nodded almost imperceptibly, and then cleared her throat. "Now, shall we proceed to the subsection on the proper technical specifications for the paper quality of the final treaty document? We have 18 options to review, each with their own historical significance." The sound that came from Admiral Vex'thor might have been a sob. While the aliens were being buried under mountains of paperwork upstairs, 50 meters below ground in a bunker beneath the diplomatic building, Technical Officer Marcus Hack Thompson was elbow-deep in the disassembled components of what used to be a standard kitchen toaster. "Hand me the quantum stabilizer," he said to his assistant, who passed him what looked suspiciously like a repurposed egg timer. "Are you sure this will work?" the assistant asked, eyeing the bizarre contraption taking shape on the workbench. Hack grinned maniacally, safety goggles pushed up into his wild red hair. "Theoretically? No. But theory is for people who have time, and we don't have time. We have desperation and caffeine, which historically has led to humanity's greatest innovations." Across the massive underground facility, similar scenes were playing out. Engineers had created a makeshift assembly line transforming everyday appliances into improbable weapons and defensive systems. The coffee makers became shield generators. Microwave ovens were rewired into short-range disruptors. Vacuum cleaners found new life as propulsion systems for one-person fighter craft. In the command center of this organized chaos stood General Diana Ortiz, her steel-gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. eyes darting between a dozen screens showing progress reports from around the globe. Status report on Project Caffeine, she barked into her communicator. The coffee maker shield generators are at 87% efficiency, General, came the immediate reply. We've successfully deployed them to 17 major cities. The alien scans read them as ordinary power fluctuations. Ortiz nodded sharply. And the toaster cannons? Axe says another 48 hours, minimum. They keep melting when we test fire them. Tell him he has 24. On the other side of the facility, in a sealed laboratory, Dr. Violet Kim was putting the finishing touches on what the team had nicknamed Plan Z, a last resort weapon that, in theory, could temporarily disable the alien fleet's coordination systems. In practice, it was a smartphone app connected to every karaoke machine on the planet. The beauty of it, Dr. Kim explained to General Ortiz during a briefing, is that it's so absurd no advanced scanning technology would recognize it as a weapon. We're going to DDoS their communication systems with synchronized, multi-frequency karaoke static. General Ortiz didn't even blink. After 6 weeks of turning household appliances into weapons of war, nothing sounded too outlandish anymore. Have we received any communications from our deep space outposts? She asked her communications officer. Yes, General. The Mars colony has successfully converted its hydroponic farming equipment into orbital defense platforms. They're primitive, but the aliens don't appear to have noticed them yet. Ortiz permitted herself a small smile. Humanity had been caught off guard, yes, but humans had always excelled at improvisation and thinking outside the box, or in this case, thinking outside the toaster. A junior officer approached with a tablet. General, Commander Reynolds is requesting an update. The aliens are getting increasingly suspicious about all the cultural holidays and mandatory reflection periods we keep introducing into the negotiations. Tell Reynolds we need another 2 weeks minimum, Ortiz replied. Suggest introducing the aliens to our traditional negotiation beverage, and that should buy us some time. You mean alcohol, ma'am? I mean the special reserve we prepared, perfectly safe for their biology, but with certain sedative properties. After all, it would be rude of them to refuse to participate in our cultural traditions, wouldn't it? As the officer hurried away, Ortiz turned her attention back to the screens showing Hack's progress. The eccentric engineer was now wearing what appeared to be a colander on his head, while soldering components together with one hand and drinking his 6th coffee with the other. That man is either going to save humanity or blow up this facility, Ortiz muttered to herself. Possibly both. 2 months into what had become the most protracted imminent invasion in galactic history, Lieutenant Krill of the Galactic Confederation's intelligence division was growing increasingly paranoid. A slender, blue-skinned alien with unusually sharp eyes, Krill had spent the last 3 weeks analyzing Earth's communication patterns and energy signatures. They're playing us for fools, Krill insisted during the daily briefing aboard the Confederation flagship. While we've been stuck in these endless negotiations, their global energy consumption has increased by 23%. That's not consistent with a civilization preparing for surrender. Admiral Vex'thor, whose once immaculate uniform now bore coffee stains and what appeared to be donut residue, waved a tentacle dismissively. The humans explained that. They're running their entertainment systems at full capacity to ease public anxiety during this difficult transition period. And you believed them? Krill's antennae twitched in disbelief. Sir, with all due respect, yesterday they postponed negotiations because it was something called International Appreciate Your Toaster Day. These humans have an unusual fixation on appliance-related holidays. Another officer chimed in. Last week it was Global Microwave Appreciation Week. Krill's eyes narrowed. Doesn't anyone find it suspicious that all these holidays correspond exactly with our scanning schedules of their major manufacturing centers? Before anyone could respond, the communication panel chimed, and Dr. Maxwell's cheerful face appeared on screen. Good morning, Admiral. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's ceremonial toaster pastries. I'm calling with wonderful news. We're ready to proceed to the next phase of our negotiations. However, However, Earth custom dictates that all parties must first participate in our traditional pre-agreement physical challenge. Vex'thor's tentacles drooped visibly. What physical challenge? Oh, nothing strenuous, Maxwell assured him, her smile never wavering. Just a friendly three-legged race, followed by something we call karaoke. It's considered deeply disrespectful to proceed with diplomatic agreements without first establishing physical and musical harmony. Behind Vex'thor, Lieutenant Krill was frantically trying to catch the Admiral's attention, making slashing motions across his throat. And how long will this physical challenge take? Vex'thor asked wearily. Just a few days, Maxwell replied brightly. 7 at most. Oh, and participants must wear these special ceremonial headbands. She held up what looked suspiciously like a colander with blinking lights attached. After the communication ended, Krill could no longer contain himself. Sir, they're scanning us. Those ceremonial headbands are obviously designed to collect data on our neural patterns. Vex'thor sighed heavily. Lieutenant, do you have any proof of human duplicity? Well, no concrete evidence, but... No evidence, Vex'thor repeated. Just like you had no evidence when you claimed their diplomatic coffee was designed to make us susceptible to suggestion. You've been drinking it for weeks, and you keep agreeing to these ridiculous delays. Because proper diplomatic procedure must be followed, Vex'thor snapped, then paused, looking momentarily confused by his own vehemence. Krill lowered his voice. Sir, request permission to conduct a covert scan of their major industrial centers, bypassing their notification protocols. Absolutely not, Vex'thor replied immediately. Dr. Maxwell has explained repeatedly that surprising scans are considered culturally insensitive and could trigger an automatic renegotiation of all previously agreed terms. As the meeting adjourned, Krill lingered behind, staring out the viewport at the blue-green planet below. Something wasn't right, and if no one else was going to investigate, he would take matters into his own appendages. Regulations be damned. Later that night, disguised as a maintenance worker, Krill slipped into the flagship's auxiliary scanning room. He quickly programmed a focused scan of Earth's southern hemisphere, where energy fluctuations had been particularly suspicious. The results made his blood run cold. Hidden beneath what human maps identified as Antarctica was a massive power signature, unlike anything he'd seen before. Whatever the humans were building down there, it wasn't a surrender party. As Krill moved to download the data, the door slid open. Commander Reynolds stood there, holding 2 cups of Earth coffee. Evening, Lieutenant, Reynolds said casually. Working late? Krill's hand inched toward the alarm button. I wouldn't, Reynolds advised. Coffee? It's a fresh brew. Or would you prefer to discuss what you've found? Officially. Admiral Vex'thor, Commander Reynolds began, his tone uncharacteristically formal as he addressed the assembled alien delegation. On behalf of Earth, I want to thank you for your patience during these negotiations. Today marks day 100 of our discussions, and we're pleased to announce we're finally ready to sign the peace treaty. The conference room had been decorated with what the humans called streamers and balloons, apparently essential components of any significant Earth agreement ceremony. Admiral Vex'thor's left eye had developed a permanent twitch, and his once pristine uniform hung loosely on his frame after months of stress-induced weight loss. Finally, Vex'thor breathed, all 7 tentacles raised in what might have been relief or prayer, to bring forth the document. Dr. Maxwell stepped forward with a surprisingly thin folder. Here it is, Admiral. Just need your tentacle print on pages 3, 7, and 42. Vex'thor stared suspiciously at the slender document. This is the treaty. What happened to the 12,000 pages you mentioned? Oh, we took the liberty of creating an executive summary, Reynolds explained smoothly, and much more efficient. And as Vex'thor reached for the document, the lights in the conference room dimmed, then shifted to a deep blue hue. Reynolds checked his watch and smiled. Before you sign, Admiral, perhaps you'd like to look out the window. Confused, Vex'thor turned toward the large windows overlooking Earth's orbit. His eyes widened in shock. Where before there had been only his fleet and empty space, now hundreds, no, thousands of small Earth vessels had appeared, surrounding the Confederation ships in a perfect formation. What is this? Vex'thor stammered. That, Reynolds said calmly, is the Earth Defense Fleet, 100 days in the making. You're looking at approximately 3,000 ships armed with, well, let's call them repurposed household appliances for now. Lieutenant Krill, who had been kept under loose house arrest since his discovery, nodded grimly. I tried to warn you, Admiral. Vex'thor's tentacles curled in fury. This is treachery. You have been preparing for war while pretending to negotiate peace. Actually, Dr. Maxwell interjected, sliding her glasses up her nose. We've been preparing for peace by making sure we didn't need to go to war. There's a difference. General Ortiz's face appeared on the main screen. This is General Diana Ortiz of Earth United Defense. Your ships are currently targeted by 3,000 toaster-based energy weapons. Each one is capable of disrupting your shield systems long enough for our coffee maker missiles to penetrate your hulls. I suggest you listen carefully to the revised terms Commander Reynolds is about to present. Vex'thor collapsed into his chair. All pretense of superiority evaporated. How? How did primitives like you develop this technology so quickly? Reynolds shrugged. We're very motivated by deadlines. And coffee. Mostly coffee. He slid a new document across the table. This is the actual peace treaty. The main points are simple. The Galactic Confederation acknowledges Earth's sovereignty and right to self-governance. Earth will consider joining your confederation as equals, not subjects, after a probationary period of 50 Earth years. And most importantly, you'll share your faster-than-light technology with us as a gesture of good faith. And if we refuse? Vex'thor asked, though his defeated tone made it clear he already knew the answer. Reynolds smiled pleasantly. Then we'll demonstrate what happens when 17 billion microwave ovens are synchronized to the exact resonant frequency of your flagship's power core. I'm told the light show would be spectacular, though brief. From the back of the room, Technical Officer Hack Thompson gave a thumbs up. Ready when you are, Commander. I've always wanted to see what happens when you microwave a spaceship. Vex'thor stared at the document, then at the human fleet surrounding his own, and finally at Reynolds' unwavering smile. You never intended to surrender, the Admiral said, realization dawning. Let's just say, Reynolds replied, leaning forward, that on Earth we have a saying. They called it a peace treaty, we called it a tactical delay. 1 month after the signing of what galactic historians would later call the most one-sided peace treaty since the Zorgon capitulation, Earth's newly established Interstellar Relations Department hosted a reception for the remaining Galactic Confederation diplomatic corps. Most of the alien fleet had departed Earth orbit, leaving behind only a small contingent to facilitate technology transfer and cultural exchange. Commander Reynolds, recently promoted to Admiral, stood on a balcony overlooking New Geneva, sipping what appeared to be whiskey, but was actually apple juice, a trick he'd learned during negotiations when he needed to appear relaxed while keeping his wits sharp. Penny for your thoughts, Admiral. Dr. Maxwell joined him at the railing, having traded her negotiation suits for a more comfortable uniform bearing the new Earth United insignia. Just thinking about how close we came to disaster, Reynolds replied. If they'd attacked immediately instead of giving us that 24-hour ultimatum. But they didn't, Maxwell reminded him. Bureaucracy saved humanity. Never thought I'd say those words. Below them, in the reception hall, Technical Officer Hack Thompson was enthusiastically explaining to a group of horrified alien engineers how he'd converted a waffle iron into a quantum computing node. General Ortiz, meanwhile, was locked in what appeared to be an intensely serious discussion with the new Confederation ambassador, though those who knew her recognized the slight upward curl of her lips that indicated she was enjoying herself. Have you seen the latest from the RD department? Maxwell asked, handing Reynolds a tablet. They've incorporated some of the Confederation tech into our toaster cannons. The efficiency has increased by 300%. Reynolds scrolled through the report, whistling. From kitchen appliances to the most advanced weapons in the sector in less than 6 months. Humanity never ceases to amaze me. Lieutenant Krill, who had requested political asylum on Earth and now served as a cultural liaison, approached them with a slight bow. Admiral Reynolds, Dr. Maxwell. The Proxima Centauri delegation has arrived. They're quite eager to meet the species that outmaneuvered the Confederation. Reynolds straightened his uniform. Let's not keep them waiting. As they walked back toward the reception, Maxwell lowered her voice. Did you approve General Ortiz's new proposal? What did she call it? The Operation Deja Vu, Reynolds replied with a smirk. And yes, I did. But if the Proxima Centauri representatives show any signs of aggression or superiority, we'll introduce them to our extensive collection of cultural holidays and bureaucratic requirements. So we're planning to pull the same trick again? With some improvements, Reynolds clarified. This time we have actual advanced technology to develop while we're stalling, and Hack has some fascinating ideas involving electric toothbrushes that I'm slightly afraid to ask about. As they entered the reception hall, the Proxima Centauri ambassador, a tall, elegant being with crystalline features, approached. Beside Reynolds, Krill tensed almost imperceptibly. They're known for their military prowess, Krill whispered, and they don't usually engage in diplomacy. Reynolds' smile never faltered as he extended his hand to the alien in the Earth greeting custom they'd been taught. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We're delighted you could join us. Before we begin formal discussions, I'd love to introduce you to some of our cultural traditions. Have you ever heard of something called karaoke? Behind him, Maxwell stifled a laugh as she pulled out her tablet, already loading the preliminary 20,000-page cultural orientation document they'd prepared just in case. Some lessons, it seemed, never needed to be learned twice. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through superior firepower or technology, but through its most underestimated evolutionary advantage, the ability to drown a problem in paperwork until a solution could be found. As the saying went throughout the galaxy now, never rush a human to war. They'll just keep talking until they've already won.